Hello, 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 and welcome everybody. Come on in, get seated. Hello, Regina. Hello, K. Mitch. Hello, Dacia Do. Okay, so we got a lot to go over today, you guys. I'm going to go over 7 different items that I've picked out. I'm trying to find another document, you guys, with some information on it. Some of these documents are really lengthy. Let me just get it up on screen here. Some of them are really lengthy. So there's 1, 2, maybe 3 in particular that I find are really interesting. We're going to go over them all. We're going to get a couple of the shorter ones out of the way first. I hope everyone is having a great day. There has been so much document dumps, you guys, in the Bryan Kohberger. Let me just show you here. This is all within the last few days. Starting here, since the 13th, these are all the documents since the 13th that have been filed. The ones beside them in red are all new that just came out in the last day or a little bit. So I've gone over some of them, the ones that I have kind of touched on, we're going to go over. I think they're of importance to go over. There is one in particular I'm trying to find. I know the information contained in it, but I'm just trying to find it. So let's get going. Okay. So this first document is the state's supplemental exhibits for expert disclosures. So we're going to just fly through this. We're not going to read every single little thing in it. It's just going to give us an idea. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, they don't have anything. Bryan Kohberger's innocent. With what they've got nothing. Well, this is just going to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the things they have. Okay? So, comes now, the state in the above titled matter pursuant to the court's March 14th, 2025 request hereby submits the following exhibits, law enforcement and lab reports. These are only some of the stuff that they have. This is what the court told them that they had to file on March 14th, or something that the defense has said that they don't have yet. So they're resubmitting it. Hereby submits the following exhibits to supplement the expert disclosure previously filed on December 18th. So this is in addition to what they filed on December 18th, March 3rd, and March 14th. Okay? So reports of FOA Michael Douglas. Okay? So this is exhibit S7D. Reports of Lawrence Mowry. Okay, this is one of the cops. Look at all the exhibits. This is exhibit S10B. There's S10, there's S10A, and at least an S10B that we know of, because this is S10B. This is S7D. You can tell there's quite a few under S7 also, but they're attaching the D. This is B. This is the narratives that they're going with. And like I said, this isn't all of them, you guys. Okay, this is just from Lawrence Mowry. Okay, things that he's going to testify to. Okay, lab reports of Jeannie Ayers. This is S15B. So these two reports, lab report 11 and lab report 25. Lab reports of Catherine White, formerly Dace, attached as States Exhibit S16B. This is lab report 6 and 16. Lab reports for Taylor. I'm not even going to try this last name. States Exhibit 17B. This is lab report 4, 1, 17, and 20. Lab reports of Tara Martinez. This is States Exhibit S18B. And this is lab reports 5, 10, 11, 19, 21, 23, 24, 25, 27, 30, 32, 37, 38, 39, 40. Like there was a lot done in the lab, you guys. Okay. Lab reports of Jade Miller, States Exhibit S19B, lab report 7, 13, 26, 31, 34, 36. Lab reports from Ann Nord, Exhibit S20, and it's lab report 18. Lab report of Eric Seat, States Exhibit 22B, lab report 3. Lab reports of Tina Walthall. Okay, so I'm not going to keep reading all these. Lab reports of Stephanie Wilt. Look at all these lab reports, you guys. Like there's tons of lab reports. Lab report of Honey Youngling, States Exhibit S25. Okay, so that's that one. Then we're going to go on to this one, States Supplemental Exhibits regarding rebuttal expert disclosures. Comes now the state in the above titled matter pursuant to the court's March 14th request. So they are giving more information to be attached to the rebuttal expert disclosures that were filed on February 17th. One is going to be Darren Gilbertson, his curriculum vitae, and FBI Special Agent Rob Hilly, Exhibit S8A. And he's got a lot of Bates reports here too. Jeannie Ayers attached as Exhibit S15C, and she's got some lab reports. And that's the end of that one. Like I said, the first couple we're going to just fly through. Now 3 is 9 pages long. And what this is in response to is the prosecution is planning on having a 3D model, like a dollhouse, made just with the doors, the walls, the stairs, etc. What each room was. It's not going to have furniture in it. It's not going to have any of where the bodies were. It's just an overview in like a dollhouse kind of made, not to scale, obviously. Um, and it's going to help those who are on the stand with saying, okay, this is where Dylan Mortensen's rooms were. And in this dollhouse that they're making, it's going to be on a table that's on wheels so they can move it out of the way and stuff. It's also going to be able to remove the layers of the house. So they can remove the second and third floor and just have the first floor layout there so the jury can see this is where the empty bedroom was, this is where the bathroom was, and the laundry room, and where Bethany's room was. And then they could put the second floor, put it on top. This is where the living room was. This is where Xana's room was and the bathroom. And this is where Dylan's room was. This is where the stairs were going up from the first to the second floor and then the second to the third floor. This is where the kitchen was. This is the sliding doors we think he came through. Then they can put the third layer on and show Maddie's room, Kaylee's room, and the bathroom. It's just to give them an idea of the layout of the house because the house is so weird, right? So, what the state is saying is comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney and replies to the March 17th, 2025 defendant's objection to the state's motion in limine, read the admissibility of demonstrative exhibits and memorandum in support. At the outset, it is necessary for the state to clarify the history between the parties on the issue of the 3D model. It is true that the state's initial plan was to ask for a 2-scale, excuse me, 3D model of the 1122 King Road residence. As part of that, and at least partially in response to Ms. Taylor's October 2023 request for additional information, see page 2, second paragraph of defendant's objection. The state initiated inquiries for underlying supportive data for its own review and to share with the defense. Eventually, the state realized that there was not any need for a 2-scale model and ultimately settled on proposing a not-to-scale 3D model as a demonstrative, illustrative exhibit. While the emails the defendant attached to his objection make reference to a scale 3D model, Defendant's Exhibit 2, the defendant neglected to include the balance of the email thread, which includes emails between Ms. Taylor and Ms. Jennings on February 4th, 2025. Hang on. Sorry, guys, I'm coughing up a storm here. Let me just grab a Halls. My throat is still so screwed up. I said this cold that I had was horrible. I don't wish it on anybody. Hopefully this helps. Okay, so the defendant neglected to include the balance of the email thread, which includes emails between Ms. Taylor and Ms. Jennings on February 4, 2025, and emails between the undersigned and Ms. Taylor from February 28 and March 4th, where the state advised the defendant that the state finally received supplemental information regarding the 3D model attached to the email, and that the state was electing to use a 3D model as demonstrative exhibit for any witness who might talk about the residence, not an actual scale model. See the full email thread attached here too. Ms. Taylor's response to the state's inquiry regarding any concerns the defendant had about a demonstrative exhibit not to scale is merely that she continues with the same objections as we discussed and I expressed in email exchanges with Ms. Ashley, Ms. Jennings. The defendant's same objections are reflected in Ms. Taylor's February 4, 2025 email. Specifically, the issue I have, okay, so this is what Ann Taylor said. The issue I have is in the building of a 2-scale model. Okay? She didn't want a 2-scale model. The defendant now argues the same objections to a not-to-scale model without recognizing the difference in the standards for demonstrative evidence. As the state outlined in its motion in limine dated February 21st, 2025, demonstrative illustrative exhibits are properly admissible when the exhibit supplements testimony of witnesses or assists the jury in obtaining a better understanding of the facts and issues. Professor Lewis, in his Idaho Trial Handbook at section 2.7, cites to Masters and other case law referred to by the state and its motion in limine. Professor Lewis adopts the above Masters and continues. So it's just giving what he cited. The state respectfully submits that a not-to-scale illustrative model is no different than the diagram or hand-drawn sketch or floor plan, see Exhibits 5 to 8, presented to the grand jury in this case. The state recognizes that it will need to establish foundation that the 3D model fairly depicts or represents the floor plan of 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022, and that the use of the model will be helpful to witnesses in explaining their testimony and to the jury in understanding the evidence. Based on the above, the state asks that the court issue an order allowing the use of a not to scale 3D model of the 1122 King Road residence in order to aid witnesses in their testimony and aid the jury in understanding the evidence provided. Of course, that the state lays adequate foundation for the said exhibit. Hello, Patty Ward. Good morning, Courtney. So what they're basically saying here is, look at, she said that she had problems with a 2-scale model, and now she has a problem with a not to scale model. So it's just like you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? I believe that the judge is going to deny the defense's motion to have this. They filed a motion. I am lost here. I'm looking at 2 different pages. The defense filed a motion to have this tossed, and I don't think that's going to happen. And attached to this, we're not going to go over them. He just shows here the emails that were between them, where he states that, look at, let's work together. Boom. We like to use a 3D model of the residence at trial. We anticipate this will be up on wheels and each of the residence floors will detach. I've included a picture of the model. Would you stipulate to the entry of this model? She said, absolutely not. I'm surprised to see this email. I did not see this 3D model drawing in discovery, nor did I see it in expert disclosures. I need a lot more information, blah, 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 blah. Okay? I cannot stipulate, especially without full discovery and expert opinion. Get it. I get it. So then he says, the physical model has not been completed, and that's understandable. We're not going to, let me just make this a little bit smaller so you can see it all. He states that, look, we're not going to pay to have this done unless you can stipulate to it. Otherwise, we're going to go to the court and ask the court for it. That's why it hasn't been done, right? So the prosecution says the physical model has not been completed. All that we have at this point is the drawing in which we were just provided and you now have. Our hope is to have either your agreement or a court order before expending the time and resources to do the actual construction. I note the exhibit list is due on April 21st. So they don't have to have this in until April 21st. So with her complaining, well, this is the first time I've seen it. Well, we're giving it to you. We're telling you about it now. We have until April 21st. So we're giving it to you well in advance with copies to be exchanged at this point. I should also add that very little detail will be demonstrated within the house. My understanding is only walls and doors will be present with no placement of bodies, etc. This model is to help the jury understanding the layout of the house, which, as you know, is odd. This model could be used for solely demonstrative purposes. However, our thoughts are that it would be beneficial for the jury to have context for the layout while deliberating, which means we would need to admit it as an exhibit. I was hopeful that we could proactively take care of some of the more routine and equally beneficial items such as this as they come up. This would be beneficial to her too, right? With some of the things that she wants to fight. Anyway, so this is just the emails back and forth, and obviously now it's going to go in front of the judge because she's refusing to stipulate on it, etc. So that's going to go in front of the judge. Next, here's where it gets interesting. It starts getting interesting right here. This is regarding family members. And the prosecution is saying, nope, Bryan Kohberger's family is not to be in the courtroom. Why? Because they're going to be called as witnesses. Okay? Now, it's still, I don't think any of us in the oh my gosh, we'll get it together. True crime community has figured out exactly who is going to testify. But I do believe that his dad and his sister, the one, and I believe it's the one, um, maybe both sisters. If it's just one sister, I'm assuming that it will be the one that's in the mental health profession. And I believe she's the same one that he stole the phone from. So if it's only one of the sisters testifying for the prosecution, I would say it's more likely the one that works in mental health. The other sister, she was in a movie where somebody was, life was taken with a knife, right? So let me just find it here. I will go through this slowly if in case, how many pages? It's only 3 pages. Let's read it. Comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney and respectfully replies to the defendant's response and objection to the state's motion in limine re immediate family members in courtroom filed March 17th. The state is in agreement that immediate family members should logically include step-parents and relatives by marriage. The defendant stipulates to the individuals listed within the state's Exhibit S1. Okay? So this here tells me that in the state's Exhibit S1, the family members are mentioned that they're going to be using. Therefore, the state moves the court for an order allowing the family members listed on the state's S Exhibit 1 attached to the state's motion to remain in the courtroom during the entirety of the trial against the defendant. Now, okay, so what this is the victim's family members. Regarding courtroom decorum, the state defers to the court's inherent authority to supervise their officers, parties, witnesses, counsel, and jurors by imposing rules to protect the rights of litigants and orderly administration of justice. Defendant requests that members of his family be granted the same rights as the victims. However, the immediate families of homicide victims have a constitutional and statutory rights to attend pursuant to Idaho Constitution 22.4 and Idaho Code 195306. There is no comparable constitution or statutory provisions affording the defendant's family these same rights. Further, there is no authority to support the argument that the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights would be violated. The defendant has a constitutional and statutory right to a public trial, but that does not extend to the defendant's choosing whom sits in the courtroom. In addition, the state may call members of the Kohberger family to testify at trial. I do believe they have subpoenaed the father, number one. Now, if you guys remember when I bought the book When the Night Falls by Howard Blum, in that book, Howard says that his father gave statements to Howard that he was afraid of Bryan and that Bryan had done some pretty whacked out things. That's in the book. So I am assuming, and I'm only assuming, that the father is going to be called as a witness for the state, and I believe one of the sisters is going to be called. That's the buzz. It's not verified yet, but that's the two that I would assume are going to be called. Prior to the start of the trial, the state anticipates it will motion the court, or the court will, on its own accord, generally exclude testifying witnesses from the courtroom so that they cannot hear other witness testimony. The defendant's family are not exempt from IRE 615. Therefore, those members of the defendant's family on the state's witness list, we haven't got that yet. I wonder if we're going to get the state's witness list. Oh, it's due April 21st. So we're going to have to watch for the state's witness list. That comes out April 21st, or there shortly after. I'm going to write that down. So April 21st. I'll be watching you guys. Witness lists. Okay. And they should be excluded from the courtroom until they testify. Okay. So I do believe that there's going to be at least two. Let's see if I'm right. I'm going to write it down. The father and the sister, um, mental health. She works in mental health, I think. Not the one that did the movie, but the other one. I don't know their names, so. Okay. Okay, so here is the lengthy one, you guys. States replied to the defendant's objection to motion in limine. There's so much in this document. Okay? But before we get to this, I want to go over something else. This is the one, no, it's this one. Okay, we'll go over this one first because it's not really that long. This is the defense fighting to keep out certain words, descriptions, and one of them is bushy eyebrows. Okay? So it comes now, Bryan C. Kohberger. We're not going to read this whole thing. I'll scroll through it, so in case you want to go back and watch it later, you can pause it. Buying through his attorneys of record and hereby replies to the state's response to the defense motion in limine witness identification by bushy eyebrows filed on March 17th, 2025. The argument. She's saying mistaken identifications have been one of the leading causes of wrongful convictions in the United States for decades and still are. When a witness swears under oath to the identification of the person on trial, the impact cannot be understated. In this case, if Dylan is allowed to say that she saw bushy eyebrows, it will not be different than her pointing to Mr. Kohberger saying that's him. To make matters even more prejudicial, the state wants to admit into evidence a picture of Mr. Kohberger as if Dylan identified him in the photo. This is how wrongful convictions occur. Okay, so here we go. This is the photo, you guys, that he took of himself in his bathroom. I'm assuming it's his bathroom. Like just a couple hours after the murders, like a few hours after the murders, he took this picture of himself. He looks showered up. Look at this. A shirt buttoned right up to the neck with a thumbs up. Like, to me, what do you guys all? Let's stop right here for a minute. We've got 24 people in here. What do you guys think of this photo? What do you think this photo is depicting? To me, it's almost like, yes, got away with it. Thumbs up. What do you guys think? Let me know. I'm waiting to see in the chat what you guys think. Please also smash that like button if you have not. We have 25 people in here, only 19 likes. It's free to do. Please hit that like button. Come on back in. And when you come back in, make sure you got live chat selected at the top of your screen. Almost says he's odd. Right? Well, we can't really see if there's any cuts because this is his left hand. He's right-handed. I do see something, a little bit of something here. On other photos that they've crisped up, I don't know how to do all that stuff, you guys. It looks like here there could be something, but why does he have this buttoned right up? You know what I mean? What's he trying to hide? I just find very odd. Like, got away with it, showered up, right? Thank you for hitting the like, Elma. Right? No one does this. So, let's get back. So, what else here? I'm just going to scroll through this, you guys, because I believe it's at the end of this. Yes. Where does it say it? Okay. The photo of Mr. Kohberger that the state attached to its response is not relevant and is overly prejudicial. Hello, stay-at-home mom. Right? Unless you're going to wear a tie. I don't see no tie. Okay. This is akin to the state trying to identify Mr. Kohberger for Dylan or create its own corroboration for her. Dylan previously stated she could not identify him. There are literally millions of people in the world who might be described as having bushy eyebrows. The term itself is subjective, and Dylan has a fascination with drawing eyes and eyebrows. She does drawings of faces. That's what she does. Okay? Hello, K. Mitch. Now, I know somewhere else they have found a sketchbook where she was trying to sketch what she's seen. Okay? But it's also been stated that she does sketch faces. So somebody who is into art that sketches faces would notice things like that more than anybody else, right? I think it says it's odd. The state contends that Dylan's statements are independently reliable as law enforcement did not employ a witness identification procedure. Mr. Kohberger is not suggesting that Dylan's descriptive words were developed in conjunction with a lineup. Dylan was interviewed 5 times. Law enforcement was involved in each interview. According to the state, Dylan's multiple descriptions of the intruder were based on her own recollection and were not the result of a suggestive identification procedures employed by law enforcement. Mr. Kohberger points the court to the following incidents which are suggestive. Number 1, in the second interview on November 13, 2022, Dylan was interviewed at the police department by Detective Mowry, who inquired about facial features and asked Dylan if she knew what color the intruder's eyebrows were. Detective Mowry is the person who mentioned eyebrows, not DM. But she had mentioned it. So this is why I say and I'm not just singling out Ann Taylor. In any defense attorney's filings like this, you can't take every single thing that they say as fact. Okay? Because just like this, why is she jumping to the second interview? What about the first interview? In the first interview, she is the one that brought up the bushy eyebrows. She doesn't include that here. So she's trying to fool the court. She's done this on several occasions, and Judge Hippler's called her out. Okay? And she does this. We've seen she did that in the email filings regarding the 3D model, right? That she only included a couple emails instead of all of them. Okay? This is what she does. And a lot of defense attorneys do this. So, with her stating Detective Mowry is the person who mentioned eyebrows, not DM. Well, no, because as you can see right here at the top, this is the second interview. The first interview, when the cops asked her, and we have it somewhere, we've already gone through it. When the police first approached her, or she approached the police, she said, "Oh yeah, there was this guy in our house last night at 4 a.m." She was trying to even tell the 911 operator, right? And he had a mask on covering his face and blah, 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 blah. And he had bushy eyebrows. That was her first interview. Okay? So with her trying to deceive things here and make it like it's the detective that's pushing this narrative, no. He asked again about it once they had her down to the police station because they needed it videotaped, right? Okay. In the third interview on November 17th, Dylan was interviewed by Detective Gooch, who asked Dylan if she knew what a balaclava was and showed her a picture. Remember, she said he had a mask covering everything except for his eyes. Dylan drew the mask for the interviewer. Copy of Dylan's drawing is attached. It looks remarkably similar to a balaclava. The state argues that Dylan is a reliable witness. Okay. What page are we on? We're on page 3. Here's the drawing that Dylan did. This is what the mask looked like. That's a balaclava. This is the opening right here for the eyes. I guess we should turn it so it looks... Okay, there you go. So this is the opening for the eyes. So here's his head. This mask was covering his face. Only an opening for the eyes. Okay, let's go back. Okay. The state argues that DM is a reliable witness. Should the court apply the 5-factor Manson-Biggers balancing test to evaluate the witness's reliability, it should not ignore either the limited amount of time that Dylan had to view the intruder or her state of intoxication. A witness is likely to provide an accurate identification from a fleeting view, and witnesses' attention is likely compromised when they are intoxicated. So she's saying that basically, Dylan was intoxicated. How can she remember it? She's changed her story. She hasn't changed her stories. So if you want to, she goes in to say that she was probably very drunk and tired. So if you want to read through all of this, go ahead. That's why I'm scrolling through it. Sensory overload, memory processing. She goes into all this stuff, which is, So then she goes on to, in this case, not only was there an 8-hour delay in reporting prior to the first law enforcement interview, Dylan was allowed to mingle with Bethany and many other friends. Law enforcement did not separate all of the friends who came to the 1122 King Road prior to interviews, and no warning was given to not discuss the facts, and no effort was made to limit such a discussion. Well, because they didn't know what the hell was going on at the time. All they know is they got all these kids here, and 911 was called, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, many of the friends who were at 1122 King Road when police arrived also stayed in the same hotel room the night of November 13, 2022. There was also an extensive media coverage. Post-event information must be considered as a factor on the accuracy of Dylan's memory retention. Information that came out afterwards has no bearing on what Dylan had already said to the police. There was a man in the house at 4 a.m., and this is what he looked like. This is what I remember seeing. This process occurs when eyewitnesses describe what they observed to police, when they participated in identification confrontations, and when they testify in court. Several factors affect retrieval. So she goes into how the brain works and blah, blah, blah. So, for the reasons addressed above and in Mr. Kohberger's initial brief, the court should grant Mr. Kohberger's motion in limine to exclude Dylan from using the words bushy eyebrows. Of course, because that's what he had. To identify the intruder that she saw, and to exclude Dylan from identifying Mr. Kohberger based on bushy eyebrows. The court must additionally prohibit the state from acting as an identifying witness by admittance a picture of Mr. Kohberger in evidence in support of Dylan's testimony for any other reason. So this is the picture. Look at the bushy eyebrows. This picture was taken just hours after he committed this crime. Look at them bushy eyebrows, right? So they're saying they don't want the prosecution to be able to use that photo. Okay. Now, here's another one before we get to the big one. Here is do I have it up? Oh no. Okay, wait a minute, you guys. Let me just get. Oh no, I do have it up already. It's over here, I believe. Nope, I don't have it. Or is this it? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I like Hitler too. Okay, so the next thing, this is the one that I'm trying to find, you guys. Now, it may be in the document we're going to read after this. I don't know. But we'll go ahead and we'll look. But FBI agent Balance, okay, he's the one that did this cast, okay? He assisted with search warrants and all that. But what I want to get to is down here. Okay. He generated a report of all the defendant's movements from June 22nd to December 22nd, which the defense is saying is overly broad, unnecessary, and prolonged, will prolong the jury's service with details not relevant to the prosecution. Okay, so what they did with the help of his phone, okay, with the help of this very expert, the state sought and received AT&T phone records for Mr. Kohberger from June 22nd through December 22nd. June 2022 to December 2022. Okay? And what they found, remember we thought that he was in the area 12 times? Nope. 23 times. It's in these documents here somewhere, you guys. I just haven't had a chance to go through them all and find it. But there is a document. If you guys want, JLR has it on his channel. I don't know if I should play his video. I don't want to get struck and have this all for naught. He put out a video today, and it says the document says that his vehicle was caught 23 times within 100-meter radius of the 1122 King Road house. And here it is. Okay. This is the King Road house right here. Let me just refresh this here so I've got it up. My information up properly here. Thank you guys for smashing that like button. Okay, so you guys know my mapping here. I've got everything under the sun on this. What I didn't have was this. Okay. Now, what I did to get this area, 23 times he was caught within 100 meters. This is a 100-meter radius around the 1122 King Road house. I will show you. If you take this measuring tool and you put it on the house and you go outwards, look at that. I even went over. This is 100. Oh, come on. Why are you doing that? This is over 100 meters this way. This way is over, that's at 100. I know Kohberger, I don't know why that's doing that. This is at over 100. That's 109. And this one is 107 meters. So this is way bigger than 100 meters. It's 107 meters from the house down here, 104, I think, this way, 107 this way, and 103 this way. So 23 times between June 22nd and December 22nd, his car was in this area. Okay? That's not a very big area, you guys. And unless he can say, oh, look I know somebody who lives right here. I don't know why this. Oh, it's because I'm going on there. Unless he can say, I knew somebody that lived here, or I knew somebody that lived here, I knew somebody that lived here, I knew somebody who lived over here, or I knew somebody over here, and this is the way I came through here. You know what I mean? What reason does he have except for stalking? Remember, Kaylee said that she thought was being stalked. What reason would he have to be in this area, right? So 23 times his vehicle and his phone was in that area. Okay? 23 times, not 12. 23 times within 100 meters, which is 300, wait, 100 meters. Okay, 30 times. Almost 330 feet. Because I think there's like 3 feet, 3.1 feet in a meter. So about 300 feet, 330 feet of the house. So 330 feet this way, this way, this way, and this way. So how often did he make this drive? You know what I mean? Because now we know that he was caught on cameras over here, but he was also caught on cameras back here. His headlights, when he was coming around here, I guess were shining on this. And his headlights can be seen once he leaves and comes around here. On this camera, his headlights can be seen through here. Don't forget it was winter, right? And then as he's coming back, the time that it would take him, like less than a minute to come back up and around, he's caught headlights from his car are caught this way and coming like this. So there's like all these people that were saying they've got nothing. They've got nothing. Oops. Okay. So, and that's what this FBI guy, Ballas, is going to be testifying to. What else was on here that I wanted to? Okay, so we can get rid of this one. Okay, so this is the big one, you guys. There are a couple things on here. I will scroll through it. Let me just get this off the screen so you guys can see. There are 70 pages, so I will scroll through this. I will stop at certain points. But the first thing I want to get to that I think is important is he almost describes exactly what he needed to do beforehand, during, and after the crime. There's a paper that he wrote. We're going to go over it. So let me just, what page is that on? Hang on. Okay, I've also got receipts to show you guys too. I guess we can do that one first. So I don't have to keep flipping these pages. Where is it? Is this it? No. Okay, hang on. Where is it? Here it is here. So let me just turn it around. Here we go. So this is from the Corner Club when Kaylee and Maddie were at the Corner Club. This is the receipt. She did not have 9 drinks, you guys. I think that's just the number on the cash register. 2 would be juice. 1 would be a beer. Okay, so a $4 pint, $4. She had a couple of vodkas, it looks like. I don't know what the pricing would be there for a vodka and adding juice to it. I don't know. Or is this like a jug of a vodka drink and adding juice to it? I don't know. But her total came to $33.40 with a $6.60 tip, $40. We also have the Jack in the Box stuff. Where is it? Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so let me blow this up a little bit more, you guys, so you can see it. Okay, so this is on the 13th at 3:59 is when her order was delivered. Okay, delivered to 1122 King Road. And this is an order right here you can see from Jack in the Box right here. And they're giving the time as US Pacific. So this is from Jack in the Box. So this is going to be Xana's order. Okay, what else was there was something else here, I think. Oh yeah, we'll get into oh. We gotta turn these around again. So they're right side up. There we go. There's Bryan Kohberger's driver's license. Okay, so what I find funny is you see this issued date right here? July 1st, 2022. This was issued in Washington. No. She didn't have 9 vodkas. I think she probably got a jug of some kind of drink. So maybe, I don't know, there was 9 drinks in there. I don't know. I'm sure she didn't have 9 shots of vodka, unless it was made, because I have a friend that owned the bar, and you could put like 8, 9 shots in a jug. Instead of buying like a vodka and orange juice one at a time, you could buy them by the jug also. So you'd put like, say, shots of vodka in there, how many drinks it will hold, mix it with the orange juice, and then they got a jug so they didn't have to keep coming back. You know what I mean? Maybe she did. I don't know. But there's only a charge once for juice. So I'm assuming it was made in a jug. Unless there was like a really fruity specific drink that she had that cost that cost $27. I don't know. But at issue right now, see this? In July, he changed his Pennsylvania license in for a Washington one. Why didn't he change his license plates at the same time? Right? And there you go with these bushy eyebrows. Look at those bushy eyebrows. Right? Okay, so what we want to go to is page 35. Is it this one? Okay. What's this? Yeah, they also got surveillance. I guess I should scroll through this. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll through this, and then we'll get to what he wrote about a crime scene prior to the murders. Okay, so stick around. Prior to the murders, he wrote what you're going to see on page 35 here, okay? Okay, so this is from the state of Idaho. And they're replying to the defendant's objection to the state's motion in limine regarding self-authentication of records. The state seeks to rely on self-authenticating evidence as opposed to calling foundational witnesses in order to accomplish the same. It's understood that the admission would be contingent upon the state laying a proper foundation with a certificate affidavit under IRE 8036 or 8. Okay, so they are talking specifically about these things here. Replying specifically to the defense's response regarding the Linda Lane surveillance, the Linda Lane 1320 Linda Lane, 1330 Linda Lane surveillance, Albertsons in Clarkston, the video surveillance and business records, the Amazon financial and user records for Bryan Kohberger. They found him purchasing a K-bar, you guys. They did. And then attempting to purchase another one in December to what? replace the one that he doesn't have no more. And this is one of the things that I believe his family is going to testify about who purchased that, because he purchased that on Amazon, but it was a family account. So I believe one of the family members that the prosecution is going to be calling is going to be who ordered that. They might call each and every one of them to the stand. Did you order it on the account? Did you? But they also have receipts of who paid for it, right? And it was Bryan. Anyway, AT&T records for Bryan Kohberger. Bagel shop video surveillance for November 13th. Bank of America records for Bethany and Zana. But the state no longer intends to rely on this evidence. If the state does, it will lay the proper foundation at trial. So they're not going to be using this, they say. Banner Bank banking records for Ethan Chapin. The state no longer intends to rely on this evidence. If they do need it for something, they will lay foundation. Cafe Arista video surveillance for November 13th. Corner Club video surveillance. I played some of that for you guys. Oh my gosh, back a year or so ago. I played that video for you guys from November 12th to 13th. Corner Club financial transaction receipts of sales on November 13th. That's the receipt I just showed you. Costco in Clarkson, WA. Surveillance video for November 13th. Footage maintained. DeSales student records for Bryan Kohberger. Dick's Sporting Goods. This is where they believe that he bought the balaclava. A record of sale for Bryan Kohberger. This is where I believe he bought the balaclava. And they have the receipt from there. Financial records for Kaylee Gonzalez. They're not going to rely on this evidence anymore. DoorDash records for Zana and Ethan. Early warning records. The state no longer intends to use this evidence. Okay. That's interesting. Because that's usually from a banking institution, right? Anyway. Okay. Eland financial records for Kaylee Gonzalez. They're not using that no more. ENS services at 1300 Johnson Avenue, Pullman, Washington. Surveillance for November 13th. They're using that. Farmers Insurance surveillance video for November 13th. The state's not using that anymore. Floyd's Cannabis and Company surveillance video. They're using it. Forrest Dax. Crypto.com financial records for Bryan Kohberger. Interesting. Grub Truck. They're using it. So they're using this crypto.com. So did he use that to purchase something? I don't know. The Grub Truck video surveillance for November 13th, they're using. Harbor Freight business and surveillance records, they're no longer intending on relying on that. Idaho Central Credit Union bank accounts for Madison Mogan, they're not going to be using that anymore. Indian Mountain Lake surveillance records. Ooh. Oh, the state no longer intends to rely on this evidence. Okay. Jones Fabrics financial records. State no longer intends to rely on this evidence. Okay. At first, you guys, when I seen this, we went over this in another video. I thought, like, what would Bryan Kohberger be doing in a fabric store? I thought maybe buying like some vinyl, like, because you can buy vinyl and everything there, to throw over his seat and across his floor and everything in his car. That's what I thought at first. But I think he did that. He bought that somewhere else. Latah County Sheriff's Office Deputy Darren Duke body cam. This is a public record pursuant to Rule 803. Latah County Sheriff's Office citation. It's a public record. They intend on using these. Marshall's financial records for Bryan Kohberger, they're not using that, so he didn't buy anything of evidentiary value at Marshall's. So, where did he get the all-in-one, right? Weather Service records, this is public record. They're going to be using it because he says that he was out looking at the stars. Well, how can you do that on a foggy night? With ice rain, right? Numerica bank records for KC. Who's KC? Anyway, they're not using it. I don't know who KC is. Did they mean Kaylee Gonzalez and they put a C instead? I don't know. PayPal and Venmo financial records. They're going to be using this. PNC bank records for Bryan Kohberger. Pental data records. They're not going to be using this anymore. Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union. Maintained by a business. Yeah, the color of his face, he's like white, right? White as a ghost. And Peggy says, from the picture on his driver's license and the pic the day after the road room, yeah. They're using both. Petco, they're not using that anymore. That was from Kaylee. Rite Aid financial records, they're not going to be using that anymore. Ross financial records, they're not using that anymore. Sunset Mart surveillance video, they're using it. Sunset Mart, oh, so they got two. They've got one at 1311 South Main Street in Moscow. They got surveillance from that Sunset Mart. And they got more video footage from 1455 Southeast Bishop Boulevard in Pullman, Washington on November 13th. Target financial records. The state no longer intends to rely on this evidence, so he didn't buy anything at Target. Let's continue. We gotta find where he bought the Dickies. Could he have bought it at Dick's Sportswear up here that we'd already seen? Maybe. TikTok records for Xana, they're using. TJX financial records for Dylan. They're not using it no more. T-Mobile phone records for Kaylee and Dylan. They're using them. Fuqua bank records for Dylan. No longer using it. Under Armour transaction records. The state no longer intends to rely on them. U.S. Chef Store. Clarkston, Washington. That's where he went on the following morning, right? So they're going to be using that. The defendant does not have 49 listed in his response. The state is keeping the same numbers as defendant's response for consistency. Ultra Financial Records, not using it no more. Verizon records for Ethan, Bethany, and JD. So they're using those. Walmart surveillance, they're not using it no more. Washington Department of Motor Vehicles, they're using it. Washington Department of Motor Vehicles, they're using it. Remember, there's twice that he went there. He went in July of 2022 to do his driver license, and then he went November 18th, 2022 to change his plates. So there's two surveillances there. Washington Trust bank records and images for Bryan Kohberger. Wells Fargo bank records for Madison Mogan. They're not using them no more. Winslow financial records for Bryan Kohberger. They're not using it. Winslow financial records and video surveillance for Bethany, Dylan, Kaylee, Madison, and or Xana. They're not using it no more. Washington State University video surveillance for November 13th. They're using it. WSU, Washington State University, parking records, they're using it. The state's reliance on the Idaho Rules of Evidence for self-authentication of certain businesses or public records does not violate the defendant's due process. The state is providing notice of the procedure the state will rely on for certain records. The state intends to lay the proper foundation through self-authentication. Okay. Anyway, we're only on page 12. So these are all the records that they got with the certificates. So I will scroll through these because I want to get to this, what Bryan wrote about murders before the murder. Okay, so I'll just scroll through this. This is all the authenticity. Authenticity. Oh my God, never mind. I give up. Anyway, here. Authenticating everything. Okay? Authenticity. Sometimes I just can't get the word out. Okay, so these are all the people that pulled the records or gave the records or gave the surveillance and stuff like that. These are the people. They're giving how they did it. Was that? Ooh, hang on a second here. Because this is the AT&T account for Bryan Kohberger. See device purchase information, any email, any call, detail records, including detailed information in reference to all outgoing and incoming calls. Cell site, yeah. Cell site records, where his cell phone was, the locations, which cell tower his phone bounced off of, location information, all text messages, cloud data, everything. So this is how the cast got him being in that area within 100 meters. Wow. Okay. So these are the warrants too that are on here. This is for AT&T. See, I haven't seen these yet. I didn't read through them. From June 23rd, AT&T provided records for the phone number. This is Bryan Kohberger's phone number, responsive to the reference search warrant dated December 23rd, for records between June 23rd, 2022 to December 23rd. So that's where, when they got these records, wow. That's where they found out that he was there 23 times. Usage and location data. It gives longitude and latitude. Geographic limits, AT&T. I'm just scrolling through this so you can read it. If you want to go back to later and read through it, you can pause it. It's just explaining what they do and what they did. I'm looking for something that says 100 here. Okay, so there's the receipt from the Corner Club. I just showed that earlier, so you might want to go back. The vodka, the ad juice, and the pint a beer from Kaylee. Kaylee paid for it. Costco, wholesale, video surveillance. Okay, here we go. You guys ready? Are you guys ready? I'm not going to start until I see there's 28 of you in here. I want at least half of you to type in the chat ready. This is a document he submitted when he was in college. In 2020, he submitted this document on a crime like this. Come on, let me see you say ready. Nobody's watching? Nobody wants to see it? Ready. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, K-Mitch. Thank you, Peggy. There's 3. We need more than that. Come on, you guys. Yes, you do. There we go. Thank you. Come on, you guys. 30 of yous in here now. Tell me you're ready. Steps to blessings. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to hold yous up. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger, as you can see right here. I don't know why it's not letting me highlight anymore. Oh, drives me crazy. This is something he had to give. I don't know if it was a year-end filing or whatever he had to do while he was in college, right? He had to do an essay or a writing on if he showed up to a crime scene. And this is very telling, a lot of this in here. People are saying, oh, come on, he was only this and that. He doesn't know that much about crime scenes, so there's no way he would possibly know what to do and what he should be covering up. And here it is. This is his writing, okay? This is Bryan Kohberger. This was his professor, and this was done May 5th, 2020. Crime scene scenario final. So this is probably part of his final exam. Arriving at the crime scene. The first thing to be done is to block off the crime scene in order to avoid crime scene contamination. Keeping people out of the scene minimizes evidence contamination, though many may be curious to see what occurred. The theory of transfer states that we bring something with us to the crime scene and take something away, thus skewing the crime scene from the original state by contamination. So, yes, I knew. We bring something with us and we leave something there. This is because the original state of the crime scene was left by the criminal suspect. A lack of contamination allows the scene to be a snapshot in time. This is his writing, you guys. Stay-at-home detective, thank you. The curious must be noted and immediately evicted from the scene. People to be kept out of the scene include unauthorized civilians and any more than the absolute minimum number of law enforcement agents and forensic crime processors. Waiting for backup to arrive, I should stand guard at the scene, preventing these unauthorized people and even holding back eager officers from entering the scene. I must call my immediate supervisor and inform them of the deceased white female who is approximately 35 years of age. I must obtain an initial search warrant to search the scene. Failing to do so will mean that evidence is inadmissible. This goes to show you guys how much he did actually know. This is another reason why holding personnel from entering is key. The coroner must be called in order to pronounce the woman dead, and EMS should be called if they were not already called by the patrol officer 15 minutes earlier, as they would have provided emergency care if the woman showed signs of life. This would have been important for many reasons. Her livelihood is for one reason, but from the stance of a patrol officer or criminal investigator, she may have given a dying declaration of her attacker when informed of her impending death. Forensic services are next on the list to call. as they are best equipped to handle the evidence, process it, and ensure that there is not any contamination. The van also contains the best equipment for forensic investigation. A cursory search of the immediate area should be done, and any observation should be recorded in my field notes as to ensure the integrity of the preliminary case report. Officers who are not needed at the scene at the residence should ensure that the general area is searched for anything that stands out as well. This includes the area of the trailer park, which contains 62 trailers. So this is his scenario. There's a dead woman found in, I guess, a trailer park. So this is the scenario he's using to write his final exam. Right? I'd like to know what mark he got for this from his professor. Okay? And this goes to show you guys, like, they're trying to say that he has ADHD and ASD and all this stuff. He can't do this, he can't do that, he has a hard time focusing. Look at some of this stuff, right? He didn't have a hard time focusing or using his motor skills, which they're claiming now. He couldn't have committed this crime because of his motor skills, because of the ASD or whatever it is that they're now saying that he has, which was never mentioned before. But he was a wrestler. He wrestled, right? He worked in a fish factory cutting up fish. Come on. Right? Okay, let's continue. If there is anyone in the trailer, they should be moved out and questioned. Does she have kids? I should gather the following information in my notes as the investigation commences, which will later be included in my preliminary case report when the details of the case accumulate. The offense, the time of day, date, and approximate time of the offense, if known, identification of the victim, the location of the offense, the method of operation, if known, and the identification of the officer. Since the offender was not there, I would be unable to record this information initially, and the specifics of the crime won't be known until confirmed by crime lab. Getting the approximate time is important and can be indicated by rigorous mortis, which sets in at about 12 hours, or putrefaction at about 10 to 20 days. Dossier says, I will let you know that if he has autism and specifically Asperger's, like my son did, he will be obsessed with whatever he likes and is interested in. All this information will aid me as I attempt to reconstruct the scene of the crime based on the evidence location in relation to its former known position. Equipment I will have on hand for the investigation. To be prepared for the crime scene investigation, I must ensure I have a crime toolkit containing the following: 35mm camera or digital camera capable of videotaping with an adequate supply of film and power, a portable lighting system to ensure quality of photographs and that I do not miss or step over any evidence, assorted steel tape measures that can reach at least 25 feet, a ruler or other measurement marking devices, latent fingerprint equipment. What? I'd like to know, because an officer that just arrives to a scene wouldn't have all this. This would be forensics. A lot of this, it would be for the forensics team coming in that would have this stuff. Like latent fingerprinting equipment? No. A normal officer, even a sergeant, wouldn't have that. That would be forensics. Gloves to protect the scene from contamination? Yes. This will enable that I avoid leaving my latent fingerprints. Forceps and small tweezers and a pair of scissors. What? This is forensics. Unless he was going into forensics, unless this was on a forensic officer showing up at the scene, but it's not. I don't get it. Because a lot of this, what he is saying, the forensics teams does. Various evidence containers for liquid and solid. Filter paper or small swabs for liquid evidence and trace evidence. A small saw to take evidence, for example, drywall. Evidence tape to seal off the evidence containers. Casting material to take molds. What the hell? Like, these are so many different areas. So many different people would be doing these things, not just one person. There would be somebody from forensics that would do just digital, like camera, taking photos. Another one would be the one that, like a crime scene specialist that does blood splatter, stuff like that. Another specialist that would go for the fingerprints. And you know what I mean? There's like 3 or 4 different people involved in with what he's saying here. Casting material, like, that's somebody totally different in the forensics department than somebody who's taking pictures and somebody who's taking fingerprints and somebody who's taking blood evidence. This person would be somebody totally different for casting. Anyway, it is what it is. Crime scene tape for the scene. Shouldn't that have been up here, number 1? Yeah. So on this list, a normal officer, the gloves, and crime scene tape, yes. Anything else? Like protective clothing, yes. Like boot covers, yes. Look at this. Fiber-free overalls. Boot covers, eyewear, fiber-free overalls, face masks, hair nets, gowns, anything that will prevent me from contaminating the scene with things I bring in with me. Isn't that eerie? Isn't that eerie? Alyssa Santinello. I have been just so busy. Let me see if I can't get that done tomorrow for you, okay? Keep an eye under the video tab. I'm going to try and get it out to you tomorrow, Alyssa. This right here, you guys, is very telling. Protective clothing, boots, boot covers, eyewear, fiber-free overalls, face masks, hair nets, gowns, anything that will prevent me from contaminating the scene with things I bring in with me. A blue light with yellow glasses, which makes small trace evidence more visible. This is not something a normal officer does. This is forensics. There could be a very small amount of blood somewhere which wouldn't have been sampled, documented, or photographed otherwise. That's forensics. Okay. Entering the home for crime scene documentation and initial photography, videography. I may enter upon judicial approval of the search warrant and should do so with the minimum number of personnel. Having too many personnel evident in the photography may put the integrity of the evidence into question and taint the scene. Yes, that's the only place I do it. I do both. I do this stuff and I do the reads both on here. This stuff that where I go over the court cases and stuff like that is usually under the live tab. I'm trying to keep all that stuff under the live tab. And then all the readings will be under the video tab on my channel. Where was I now? Having too many personnel. Oh, okay. Contamination list should be made, documenting every person who enters and exits the crime scene and why. This includes first responding officers, firefighters, EMTs, family members in criminal investigation, and all crime scene personnel. Still, there should not be that many people in the crime scene, otherwise contamination will be increased as the theory of exchange inevitably manifests. I must ensure that myself and my fellow crime scene personnel are wearing gloves and other protective equipment as to avoid contaminating the scene with latent fingerprints. A fiber-free boot cover. See, he knows all this, you guys. He knows all this. A fiber-free boot cover would also be ideal to avoid leaving physical footprints or residue from the boots. Anything that is fiber-free and covers the mouth, hair, and overall body would be helpful in avoiding crime scene contamination, since hair, saliva, skin cells, and other bodily fluid or cells may be added to the scene, thus contaminating it. That's why he had himself covered from head to toe. Fibers can be left via the theory of exchange and would contaminate the crime scene from its initial state as the offender left it. Even if we can't assume that there was an offender, despite seeming obvious, preventing contamination is a very important way to ensure the integrity of the investigation and evidence. We should always treat the crime scene as if there is indeed a criminal homicide, as to not miss out on important details. That is how this criminal scene is being handled. This freaks me out, you guys. Like, this is his writing. This is for his final that he wrote this. He knew exactly what he needed to do to not leave anything behind. And there was so many Kohbergers saying, oh, come on, you think he could really get away with this and not leave a drop of anything behind? Here you go. You're welcome. Stop it now. Just stop it. He knew exactly what he needed to do not to leave anything behind, right down to a hairnet. Right? The first thing for me to do is take a coordinated series of crime scene photographs with a digital photography device or a 35mm camera from a natural point of view. These photos must be taken prior to the movement of any object in the crime scene to ensure that the photo captures the scene as the offender left it. The photograph should be taken from a general view of the exterior of the home as well as views of the interior, recording the time and details of the photograph in my notes. Setting up portable lighting ensures that the elements of the crime are adequately eliminated for photographic documentation. The photos should be in color as to provide the best, most accurate image, thus avoiding photographic distortion. The following details regarding photography should be recorded in the field notes and on the back of the photo if possible. What do you think you're doing? On the back of the photo. You're taking a photo at a crime scene. How are you supposed to write on the back of it? Are you using a Polaroid? Recording these details will ensure that the defense attorney does not attempt to devalue the quality of your evidence, which may make it inadmissible. Data to identify the subject of the photograph, but without too much unnecessary information. The location of the photograph, including the state, city, and street. The identifying data of the photographer, including the name, police agency, badge number, and identification number. The case number, if established at the time of dispatch. The precise time of the photograph. The date of the photograph. The weather at the time. The photographic equipment used, including shutter speeds, film type, and developing and printing techniques. Next, photos of specific rooms should be taken with special attention to the living room in which the deceased woman was found. As the coordination of photos is focused inward, specific components of the crime, like physical evidence, should be accounted for and detailed. These should also be logged in my field notes. This physical evidence should be photographed next to a measurement marker, which can be a ruler or any other easily comparable object of well-known size. The body and physical evidence to take a picture prior to collection from the forensic services and criminal investigator. The deceased woman in the living room, who should be photographed under adequate lighting from a long view. Specific shots should be focused on the evidence of harm on her body and clothing. The bruises on her face, the marks on her neck, the bloody shirt, any other signs of post-mortem lividity should be photographed and taped without moving the victim. A measurement marker should be placed next to her. This will show if an offender moved the woman as to manipulate the crime scene. Does she have defense wounds? Are there hesitation marks on her related to the knife? Look at that. That's about, oh my gosh. So this woman was red drummed with a knife. Are there multiple stab wounds? Wow. Is the mark on her neck related to the hanger near her? It's going to be interesting. Um, it's going to be interesting to see if one of them had a slice on the neck. The photographs make it sure that these items were indeed present at the crime scene. Most of the questions are speculated until absolutely confirmed by the forensic medical examiner, who can use scientific equations to determine the approximate time of death. This is a maximum that stands even when the scene seems to point to the obvious. The time of death is never entirely accurate, but the photographs can aid in this process as they capture phenomena such as rigor mortis or putrefaction when the woman was found. The knife should be photographed under adequate light, and a marker should be placed next to the knife to give the best photographic representation of the evidence. The misshapen coat hanger should be photographed under adequate light, and measurement marker should be placed next to the evidence. The upended furniture and children's furniture should be photographed firstly from a long view, then focused specifically on each piece of furniture under adequate lighting with a measurement marker. All of this should be well documented in the field notes and on the photograph. Is there any sign of forced entry into the home? This would be evident by broken glass from windows and pry marks on the doors or windows surrounding the house. This should be photographed, videotaped, and documented. If there is not forced entry, it may be suggested that the woman knew her this. A video camera will be used as well to go over all the evidence which was photographed. Documentations of the video evidence should also be filled out and recorded in the field notes. The crime scene sketch. The crime scene sketch occurs after the scene was initially searched, photographed, and videotaped. The sketch is of great value in criminal court. The sketch should first be done in pencil to ensure that the sketch accurately portrays evidence and measurements pertaining to the crime scene. Like, he's going into a whole different area here. Like, this is not what just a normal officer showing up on the scene would do. This is a multitude of different people in different sections within the police department. You know what I mean? So, what does this tell me so far, you guys? This tells me that he was highly fixated on crime scenes. Documenting. I won't be surprised if he hasn't documented somewhere what he did. Like, I can't see somebody with this sick and twisted mind to do this to 4 college students. And if it's Bryan Kohberger and this is what he does in documenting, I think he's documented it, or at least given some hints somewhere of it, of what he did. Because this right here is, you are describing which each and every person on that scene, from the first officer arriving to forensics and everything coming in there, crime scene specialist, everything. Like, and he knows what each and every one of them is to do. Very. So if I slow down a bit, it's for a reason. The sketch should first be done in pencil to ensure the sketch accurately portrays evidence and measurements pertaining to the crime scene. The final version will be done in non-perishable ink via pen. The physical evidence of a crime, which includes but not limited to the knife, mishap, he spelt this right, misshapen coat hanger, furniture, as well as other biological evidence like bodily material or fluids, should be drawn out in accurately measured proportions from each other and permanent objects in the crime scene sketch. The final search and confirmation by the forensic processing unit and investigator will determine whether this was all the physical evidence at the scene. New evidence can be added to the crime scene sketch when new measurements are taken. The distance from the permanent fixtures should be accurately recorded and depicted. The crime scene sketch should be measured by the criminal investigator and accurately display the proportions of physical evidence. Any inaccurate portrayal of the location of evidence can influence the juror perception of guilt or innocence of the suspect. See, we just went over a filing that Ann Taylor did about this 3D model. She doesn't want it in because she feels it's going to prejudice Bryan Kohberger, that it's inflammatory, that it's not going to depict the house properly. Look at what he's got in here. Look at this right here. That's why I said this long ago, you guys, that Bryan Kohberger has a lot to do with a lot of these motions. Look at this. This is his final exam that he wrote. And what is Ann Taylor fighting right now? The 3D of that house. The crime scene sketch should be measured by the criminal investigator and accurately display the proportions of the physical evidence. Any inaccurate portrayal of the location of evidence can influence the juror perception of the guilt or innocence of the suspect. They say that. Not those exact words, but that exact phrase they have in their motion. While you do not need to be an artist, the responsibility of sketching should be taken with accuracy and a goal for a clear portrayal in mind. Though I can assign another officer to sketch it, I have decided to take this task on. Oh, so now he's an artist too. Now he's a sketch artist. Okay. He's a forensic. He's a crime scene. He's what's the other one? Fingerprint. He's a beat cop. Now he's an artist too. Okay. See, this also shows his need to control everything. Though I can assign another officer to sketch it, I have decided to take this task on. You need somebody who can depict it in a way that it's not going to influence the jury and give a wrong perception of the guilt or innocence of a suspect. You want an artist to do it. But no, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it because my name is Bryan Kohberger and I'm going to do it. Do it. Okay. Sorry. A 25-foot steel measuring tape should be used to record these exact and accurately recorded measurements of the physical evidence and permanent objects in the house. Too much detail shouldn't be included in the sketch as to avoid confusion. Movable items unrelated to the crime scene convey details irrelevant to the crime and will be avoided. Funny. That's also in the motion. Look at, we're not doing all that, and all we're doing is putting walls and doors and to show, right? Extraneous detail, including movable furniture, may cause issues if jurors recognize that items in the house were moved after the fact. This would be equivalent to crime scene contamination and may render evidence inadmissible. This is all in the filing regarding Ann Taylor trying to keep out the 3D recreation, the dollhouse, right? The living room should be sketched out with the deceased woman being drawn in proportion to the knife, coat hanger, upended furniture, and children's furniture, walls, and permanent objects in the house. Other rooms that are relevant should be included in the sketch. I've decided to use the rectangular coordination method, with two right angles being outlined in proportion to the physical evidence and permanent fixtures centering around the living room. A projection, like he's trying to prove, I don't know what here. I'm smarter than everybody. I am the only dude you need at a crime scene because I know everything that needs to be done. And I'm an artist. I can do the work of 20 men. Projection can be used to document biological trace evidence like blood stains and other physical evidence, and printed on the walls. Bullet holes would be something that should be ruled out. If a bullet holes are present, they should be documented on 3D exploded sketch before the drywall is removed via saw. Sorry, you guys. Okay. Though it appears obvious that the knife was used in this crime, we do not know for sure, and this should make sure to document everything and look for less apparent evidence. Even if there was an item introduced to the scene by an officer to throw off investigators, by an offender, sorry, to throw off investigators, it's not the job of the criminal investigator processing the scene to jump to conclusions. But you're the only one there, dude. Right now, you are talking as if this is you. You are doing all of this. This is what you've got to do when you get to this crime scene. Right? I'd like to know what this is based on. Like, did the professor say, okay, you got a choice. You can pick to write your final paper on this, or this. First officer at the scene. Are you a forensic person? Are you a fingerprint analyst? Are you a photographer? Are you this? Are you that? Are you this? Are you that? Pick one and you write your thesis on. That's what you're going to do when you get to that crime scene. But this dude here, he's every one of them. He is every one of them. He is doing everything. Hey, I'm a one-man show. You don't need to hire anybody else. You just send me. Police department only needs me. Forensics only needs me. Crime scene analyst only need me. I'm the dude. I can do it all. Like, it's ridiculous. This shows how narcissist this guy is. And how can he do all this if he has a hard time with his hands? Right? The crime lab will be able to decipher with scientific certainty what is and is not an original element of the crime. Staging is common. For example, the offender may have taken items from the house to make it look like a burglary turned robbery, which went wrong. The official crime preliminary report should include the accurate sketch with the following details included: the name of the investigator and an identifying badge number. You've already said all this, dude. Detailed location of the scene, such as the city. So, okay. Living room should be noted as the center of the sketch. The date and exact time it was drawn, blah, blah, blah. You've already said all this. Way back up there. I'm choosing to draw it to scale. See this? You see this, you guys? What did we just read? I am choosing to draw it to scale, where 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Do you remember the fight that Ann Taylor just filed an motion? I want it to scale. Well, no, now I don't want it to scale. Tell me Bryan Kohberger isn't in those motions. Right? The computer-aided design program, CAD, which uses laser lights to take up 25 4,000 measurements per second in 3D may be utilized if available for the scale of the scene is most accurate. I would request the CAD if available, for it gives the best portrayal of the serious crime, allowing for an accurate point of view and zooming of particular elements of the crime. Well, guess what? They used it. They used the 3D scan. For more comprehensive crime scene search using the strip search method. What? Strip search. Did you have to strip down everything? Anyway, in order to collect evidence from the interior of the residence, I will assign roles to officers. Oh, here we go. I need help now. I will assign roles to officers on the scene, briefing them to watch where they are stepping and not act impulsively or without great care. Hastily actions will lead to valuable evidence being tampered and lost. The strip search method is what I have decided on. It allows for the interior of the crime scene to be searched from one end to the other with more than one officer or forensic processing unit. The exterior of the property should be searched from one end to the other as well, switching to grid search if necessary. Walking from one end of the scene to the opposite end of the scene, I will then turn around and cover ground to the right or left without stepping on the same spot twice. I'll read that again. You see that? Walking from one end of the scene to the opposite end of the scene. I will then turn around and cover ground to the right or left without stepping on the same spot twice. Interesting. The rooms of the trailer should be searched in this method with special attention to the living room where the victim lies, assigning a CSI or officer and myself to this section. He wants to be right there where the victim is. He has a fascination with dead bodies. Like, he wants to be so involved in this, it's unreal. Every single aspect of it, he wants to see it. So assigning a CSI, crime scene investigator or officer, and myself to this section, the living room, that's where apparently this body was found, right? Would allow that the scene is thoroughly checked. There's the narcissism again. I have to be there to make sure it's done right. As I move from one end to the other, I will make sure that I shine my flashlight ahead of myself to ensure that I do not damage or carry away smaller pieces of physical evidence. Do you remember somewhere we had heard that Dylan said it looked like he had like one of those small handheld vacuums in his hand or something? He had something in his hand. Could it have been that? A flashlight? To ensure that he doesn't step where there's red stuff, or making sure that he doesn't bring any evidence out there with him. Smaller items of physical evidence include wood chips, hairs, paint flakes, glass fragments, or small fibers. If not careful, these may be lost, even accounting for observing them. If new pieces of physical evidence are uncovered, I will take note of it for documentation in photography and videography. Things such as footprints inside and outside should be prepared to be photographed and videotaped. I must photograph and videotape the new evidence as well as log it with the following information in my crime scene sketch. As this is a serious crime, I have chosen that specialized crime scene personnel will assist me. There's no question that that's indeed an element. Okay, so a description of the element. This is all just repeat over and over. Stuff that's not a repeat, I will read. This will ensure that there's no question that this was indeed an element of the original crime scene. This will save the investigator setbacks in court. All the information that is carefully recorded regarding the crime scene evidence aids the crime report. Location of this evidence is very important, for it may give us the following information. establish a tracing of or identification of the suspect, establishing the suspect's modus operandi, MO, method of, or identifying similar MOs via information added to the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program from the completed crime report, confirming alibis or exposing lies, connecting suspects to the crime or eliminating suspects, the identification of contraband, stolen property, and other illegal items, identifying victims if they are not identified. For example, we can't assume the woman lives at the residence before confirming it. A dead body may not be initially tied to the residence. Wow. Hello, Looby Loo. Providing investigative leads. For example, checking into the husband or boyfriend. Okay, wait a minute. Bryan, in your whole report here, you have not once mentioned that this woman had a boyfriend or was married. But now you're going to check out the husband or boyfriend. Maybe you should check first to see if she had a significant other. And location of the children on the crime scene's evidence is warranted. Location of the children. Providing a statutory element of the offense. I feel like there's something telling in here. I'm going to go over it after. Okay. Collection of items of evidence. Like the crime scene photography, larger items or physical evidence are taken first. This includes the oh my gosh, here we go again. Disheveled furniture and children's furniture. Well, why are you taking the children's furniture or furniture that was thrown upside down? Unless there's evidence on it. Cell phone and computer if they're the knife and coat hanger. The body will be taken later by CSI with a coroner for custody to wait for analysts by a forensic medical examiner trained to perform an autopsy. The knife should be examined. See? This one that he's writing about happened with a knife with this female too. Should be examined for latent fingerprints to be logged separately. Same with the coat hanger, doorknobs around the house, upended furniture, cell phone, and virtually any physical evidence big enough to grab. What? This guy's delusional. Okay, crimes of passion are rooted in emotionality and impulsivity. If this is the case, we can likely count on there being latent fingerprints on the doorknob and all over the knife and victim. Why would he bring up a crime of passion? Out of everything so far, you guys, and keep an eye as we read through this, he says that this was a brutal stabbing, right? This is the first time in 8 pages that we've read through that he said crimes, he specifically talks about crimes of passion. Smaller items of biological or trace evidence, such as hair and fibers from clothing, must be collected using metal forceps or tweezers as to avoid damaging this delicate evidence, which may hold significant value in the criminal investigation. Again, he knew that. Remember back, if we go back, he knew what to cover his whole body in. His whole body, right? Fingerprints and footprints are class evidence to be taken with molds or fingerprinting kit. Fingerprints should be entered into AFIS. He knew what he had to do as to not get caught. I should use a swab where applicable to collect fluids or skin cells. Number one, you wouldn't see a skin cell. You may see some fluids, but you're not going to see a skin cell. Do you know how small a skin cell is? Which contain DNA. Anyway, the shirt likely contains not only the blood of the woman, but the blood of possible offender. DNA from biological evidence should be swabbed. What? This doesn't make sense. DNA from biological evidence? You're not. What? DNA from biological evidence should be swabbed? Placed in a vial, documented in notes, and on the container for evidence, chain of custody included to the scent. You don't know if you got DNA yet until it goes to a lab. And you don't know if it's biological evidence until a lab says it is. I'd like to see his professor going over this and making his notes and marking. I'd love to see it. The shirt will later be bagged and taken separately as physical evidence. What? You don't touch it. The crime lab does. If you're taking the shirt, you don't do nothing to that shirt. Idiot. The shirt likely contains not only the blood of the woman, but the blood of a possible offender. So, what do you do with that? DNA from biological evidence to be swabbed, placed in a vial, documented notes in the container for the evidence, chain of custody included to be sent to the crime lab. You don't do that, you dumbass. The shirt will later be bagged and taken separately as physical evidence. No, that's not how it goes. Wrong. That's not how it goes. See, I started in forensics, you guys, and it was like a no-go for me. Couldn't do it. Nope. The blood stuff, nope, not for me. But you don't swab. If you're taking the shirt as evidence, you don't touch it. You don't swab it. You don't touch it. You don't do nothing to it. The lab does that. I should make sure to swab under her fingernails to see. No, you don't. You bag her hands. It's at the autopsy that they do that. They take anything from under her fingernails. Anyway, is there evidence of sexual assault or semen present? This evidence should be marked, swabbed, and no, you don't. That's a no, you don't. You don't touch the body. The coroner does that. The medical examiner does that. Not the coroner. The medical examiner does that and collects that. Or if they're still alive, they're taken for a R kit at a hospital. Dumbass. The evidence should be marked, swabbed, and collected in a glass, vial, or cellophane bag. What? You don't put it in a cellophane bag. You put it in a brown paper bag. Oh my God. I would love to see the professor marking this. Is there evidence of personation? Did the offender take something, or did the offender display an excessive need for control over the victim as demonstrated by a possible SA and redrum? These are all observations to be recorded, though not conclusively. Wow. During the searching phase, the evidence should be marked with the following information in the field notes and later in the evidence seal packaging. I am choosing to bag all evidence and not directly mark it, for it will be sent to the forensics lab. The size of the object, the physical nature of the object. If the evidence is a liquid, it should always be kept in an airtight container, such as a cellophane bag or glass vial, and marked. No. Wow. The value of the object and the number of like objects. What? The case number. He's got this wrong. You don't put anything in a cellophane bag. The date and the exact time, the initials of the person. It must be counted accurately. The quantity should be accurately recorded on the container. Packaging for evidence, packaging the evidence for the forensics. Okay, here we go. This ought to be good. Each item I collect, including but not limited to the, coat hanger and bloody clothing on the woman, must be packed in the proper way for forensic lab analysts. I must use separate containers for evidence, not mixing up things and causing confusion, no matter how daunting this may be. I must use a new, clean packaging that was not previously used as to avoid contamination. Obviously, this or other biological evidence renders a container spent. Avoiding metal containers, which can be reused, is ideal to confirm the container is indeed disposed of afterwards. Avoiding metal containers, which can be, yes. There's little vials for all of this, bud. You do it, you do a swab. If there's a big puddle on the floor, you do a swab, you put that swab in the vial, you seal it in a bag, in an envelope, and mark on the envelope what it is, where you swabbed it, and everything else. The package must be sealed with a strong medium, such as a strong tape. Items of clothing need to be kept as is and not folded. I must keep evidence that was found in a container as it is and mark it. I must include a letter of transmittal to state what type of analysis must be done. You don't decide. That's the lab that's going to decide what analysis needs to be done. For example, wound analysis, DNA or fingerprinting, even ballistics. Oh my God, you're not the one that decides that, bud. Again, I must account for and log all this evidence in the chain of custody from where it was found, how, when, and who's transporting it, and where is the evidence locker located. The woman must be removed by a certified professional and sealed, taken into custody by the coroner, and sent to the forensic medical examiner for forensic autopsy. This must all be logged in the field notes and initial crime report before compiled in the closing report. Well, he knows how a body's removed. The crime scene will be surveyed if necessary, but the longer the time it takes to do so, the more chance the crime scene is contaminated. When mailed, I must always send this evidence registered mail enclosed with secure receipt. What mailed? If stuff is sent, if it has to be hand delivered, it's usually hand delivered by a cop. Thus, therefore, collection of evidence is all necessary for the crime lab criminals to be capable of analyzing all elements of the crime. See, if you've got evidence that you need to go to a specific lab, it's the cops that bring it right there. You don't mail it. Have you ever lost anything in USPS? Canada Post? Oh my God. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when the professor was reading over this. Evidence chain of custody. The careful description of evidence when and where the evidence was found and who found it are all related to the evidence chain of custody. All evidence must be described and then transported and placed in an evidence locker. The careful description of evidence, when and where the evidence was found, okay, and who found it, okay, are all related to the evidence chain of custody. Yes. All evidence must be described and then transported and placed in an evidence locker. No. No. Not all evidence is going to go to the evidence locker. It's going to go to labs. Anyway, the identity of the transporter and the location of the evidence locker must be accounted for. If the evidence is taken out of the locker at the police department, it must be recorded who did it and why they did so. The knife, mishap and wire coat hanger, and any physical, biological, or trace evidence found must be accounted for, bagged, and sealed, and then kept in an evidence locker. It's kept at it goes to the lab. Her bloody clothing would be examined as well, but this would infer that she must be moved and have items of clothing removed. This is something the forensic crime scene processing unit should do. No, this is done by the medical examiner. Her bloody clothing should be examined as well, but this would infer that she must be moved and have items of clothing removed. This is something the forensic crime scene processing unit should do. No, the medical examiner does that. If she had a cell phone or computer nearby, this should be described, logged, and transported to the digital forensic lab for digital forensic exam. Oh, so the computer and cell phone goes to the digital forensics lab, but the blood and everything just goes in a locker? No, that's not how it does. Did she communicate with anyone? Did this indicate conflict? Did her husband or boyfriend contact her? Did anyone else contact her? This may help the investigators look in the right direction if things turn out to be not so obvious. Again, we can assume it was the husband or boyfriend just because there may have been a history of domestic violence or a PFA, despite this being very common. Also, she may have had children's furniture for her nieces or nephews, so we can't even assume that she had kids. Okay. When moved, all items will have inventory receipts which document the movement for the chain of custody. Correct. All of this is for the accountability and integrity of the evidence and thus the proper outcome of the criminal investigation. Failing to do so leads to injustice. There can be a very clear link between victim and offender, but if this is not accounted for via chain of custody, then it will be inadmissible. That's not always so. Outreach to other agencies and immediate elements to the investigation. A lot of these inquiries would occur concurrently with the crime scene investigation. Outreach to other agencies and immediate elements of the investigation. A lot of these inquiries would occur concurrently with the crime scene investigation. Does she have kids? The county records office should give us this information. What? No. If so, the welfare of the children should be assured. Were we aware that there are disheveled items of children's furniture around, but where are the kids? Calls can be made to family members of the deceased would help narrow that down. Yes. Not calling the county records office. You call the family. Does she have kids? Oh gosh. Anyway, calls to the clerk of the court's office to see if there's a PFA out on the husband or boyfriend. She should be made. What? If there's a protection order, the police department would have that. And how do you know that she has a boyfriend or a husband? You haven't even decided that yet. But you're calling the clerk, hey, what's her husband's name? I don't know. Nowhere in his writings have I seen that he called anyone to find out if she even had a husband or boyfriend or who next to kin or anything is. I see here that he's saying reach out to family to see if she had kids, but I don't see him asking anybody if she even has a boy. Anyway. The husband or boyfriend of the deceased woman should be contacted to establish an alibi. How do you know she even has one? Nowhere in this have I seen you asking anybody if she had a boyfriend or husband. The kids should be located as soon as possible. Wait a minute. Are you now saying she does have kids? And possible Amber Alert should be sent if there are not accounted for. That's not how it works. Anybody who follows the criminal cases that we follow know how hard it is to get an Amber Alert unless somebody's seen those kids being abducted or somebody calls in and says, hey, my kids were just abducted in this car. There's no Amber Alert. if they're not accounted for? Does the father even have rights to see the kids? How do you know she had these, that if this boyfriend or husband is the father of these kids? Like, this is ridiculous. Neighbors should be questioned to see if the father was around or any suspicious person. Why don't you ask the neighbors if she had a boyfriend or husband first before you start running him through the courts and everything else here? And why don't you find out if she had kids first before you start Amber Alerts? Like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, anyone who normally passes by the scene, such as a mailman, should be questioned and an alibi established. Oh my God. Where were the neighbors when this happened? Their alibis should be evident and supported. Did they notice anything unusual? Maybe the father was seen with the kids leaving the scene. How do you know that? Oh, oh, oh. Okay. We don't even know if these are her kids. We don't know if she has a boyfriend or a husband. Maybe the father was seen with the kids leaving the scene. This can be important evidence if the father was not responding and the kids are not located. The Amber Alert can be set based on the vehicle plate numbers and description of the father. How do you know? You just said you didn't even know if she had kids. They could be toys. I got toys here for my granddaughter. I got no other kids here. I don't have a husband or a boyfriend here. Like, this guy's ridiculous. Eyewitnesses and surveillance footage in the trailer park surrounding areas of drugstore, which oversees the trailer or nearby gas station, can give us information on this crime. There's a good one. Surveillance footage is circumstantial evidence, but may lead investigators in the right direction and to the apprehension of the suspect. You should have reread that, Brian. If we can't gather conclusive information by the end of the investigation, the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program can help. VICAP. VICAP will come in when they decide they're going to come in. They don't have to be asked, from what I understand, especially when children are involved in something like this. If there were children, we don't even know if there was children. Let me take a drink of my coffee. We don't even know if there was a husband involved. Anyway, VICAP may be utilized if this case happens to be unrelated to a domestic dispute. This may be the work of a serial, although this is highly unlikely. Really? Still, we are only looking at the facts of the investigation rather than conjecture, and we can only say for sure once a suspect is apprehended and the evidence is strong enough to say what happened with scientific certainty. You're not looking at the facts because you have no facts to say whether she had kids, whether she was married, whether she had a boyfriend. You don't have any of those facts, but you're only still looking at the facts? Well, okay. How much longer is this thing? Are you guys getting bored yet? Do I have to continue with this? Because if you guys want to continue, we're on page 45. Let's see how much further this goes. Oh, we're almost at the end. Okay. I guess we're going to finish. The compilation of evidence in the primary report, progress report, closing report, and prosecution report. My notes enabled that I wrote a thorough and accurate preliminary case report which contained all the facts of the case. No. I will need to update it with progress report as we track down suspects and eventually create the closing and prosecution reports, which will be used in court if we get evidence of a specific person who committed this specific crime. The closing report will be the accumulation of all the facts after investigation and lab analysis, which lead to the most accurate reconstruction of the scene possible. The steps that I have listed will ensure that prosecution report and closing report reflect a proper investigative procedure with full admissibility of evidence into court. All the notifications were made and the evidence chain of custody and investigative procedure ensued the integrity and accuracy of the evidence of the crime scene. With thorough documentation, it is unlikely that the defense will be able to discredit the investigation and render evidence inadmissible. Should have thought about that, Abe. This clear information, nothing is clear here. All we know is there's a woman in the middle of a trailer, um, in the middle of her living room in a trailer, deceased with which looks to be knife wounds, and she's deceased. If you're telling me right now that with what you just gave is good enough, you couldn't be farther from the truth. I would love to be this professor reading this and making corrections. We don't even know yet if she had kids. We don't know if she had a husband or a boyfriend. Nothing. Anyway, he seems to think that he's been the best of the best here. The steps that I have listed will ensure that the prosecution report and closing report reflect the proper investigative procedure with full admissibility of evidence into court. All the notifications were made in the evidence chain of custody and investigative procedure ensued the integrity and accuracy of the evidence of the crime scene. Well, I still don't know. She's married, has a boyfriend, has kids. I still don't know. With thorough documentation, it is unlikely the defense will be able to discredit the investigation and render evidence inadmissible. The clear information will allow the jury to deliberate based on all this evidence. Finally, adding this information to the FBI's National Incident-Based Report System, NIBRS, will allow the FBI's Uniform Crime Reports, UCR, to give summative information of all applicable crimes to help officers, criminologists, and criminal investigators understand the social trends of crime, thus aiding future cases. Well, by Jesus. There we go. Give me a second, you guys. So, wild isn't the word. Like, this guy thinks that he is just a one-man show, that he can do it all. Anyway. So, there's an affidavit here from this person. He's a manager of investigations at Dick's Sporting Goods. Transactions outlined as requested. For transactions outlined as requested. So Dick's Sporting Goods. I believe that this is probably where he got his outfit. Like the balaclava, the onesie, the dickies. We've gone over this. This is the receipt from the DoorDash. This is the DoorDash. So this is the certificate of authenticity, saying that here I'm giving you this record, and this is exactly how it appears in our records. So this is Kelsey Pearson, DoorDash law enforcement response representative. What's this? ENS services at 1300 Johnson Avenue. So this is an affidavit of Shannon. She's an owner of EAS Business Services. Video. Okay, she gave surveillance. That's her affidavit. U.S. Department of Commerce. National Centers for Environmental Information. Oh, this is the weather report. So this is the affidavit saying that she gave certified information. This is Melissa LaForce. She is a records custodian at the PNC Bank. So these here are just going to be all the affidavits of everybody who gave the information or video surveillance. Look at T-Mobile. And these are for, he's saying that the records that he gave for the phone number ending in 4782. I don't know who that is because Bryan Kohberger's number ended in 8458. So there's an 4782 and a 4818 number. So I'm believing maybe this is some of the roommates because this is call records from the 1st of August to the 16th of November. Call details. Data sessions with cells, data sessions with cell sites, subscriber info, and timing, advanced timing. This is certifying that he gave the records of Verizon. Just give me a second, you guys. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. That was Mama coming to the door. So, okay, so what is this? This is when he's renewing his title for the car, for the Elantra. Remember, I showed you. We're going to get to it again anyway. It's going to come up here. This is when he re-registered his cars and got Washington plates. This was on November 18th, right here, November 18th, 2022. This is when he renewed his license. And by the looks of this, you guys, it didn't have to be renewed until November. Like, when's his birthday? Because usually this expires on your birthday. Why did he change his license in July, but didn't change his license plates until November? His license expires November 21st. Do we have his birthday? We'll see. We'll see what his birth date is. If it's on, let's see. They blocked out his date of birth. Does anybody know what his birth date was in chat? Sorry, that's my coffee that you keep hearing me opening and snapping the lid. Anybody know when his birthday is? Because here in Canada, your license expires on your birthday, and ours are good for 5 years. Brian's birthday is 11/21, so November 21st. I'm going to write that down. So, why would he change his driving license before it was due, but not his license plate? Okay. This is for his driver's license. Let's go back and see when. Certificate for vehicle title. So he only bought this in April. He only bought this car in April? That's what it looks like by this. But he bought this the 20th day of April, 2022. I'm trying to see when this would expire. I'm trying to see when this will expire. If he renewed it. Okay, so here's the title. He's changing it. This is on November 18th, just after noon. Not to wait. In Pennsylvania, our license expires the day after our birthday and every 4 years. Right. See, he bought this April 20th, 2022. He bought this car. So he had just bought this. So it wasn't going to expire. He didn't go and change his plates because they were going to expire. He changed his plates after the red drums. He'd already changed his driver's license back in April. And his birthday didn't come until November, so it was good until November. But he just bought this car April. I got to write this down. April of 2022, bought car. So his license, the plates, would have been good for 4 years. Right? So everybody's saying, oh, well, he had to because his birthday was coming. So he had to renew his license plate. But if he only bought the car in April of 2022, his plate should have been good till 2026. He didn't have to change his license plate. And he was on his way back to Pennsylvania. He got fired and everything from Washington. He wasn't going back to Washington. He was going home. Why would you change your license plate to a Washington plate if you were planning on going back home? It doesn't make any sense. And you still had how many years it left? You had until 2026 on your plates. Right? Okay. It says date of issue 4/20/2022. And it says up here the purchase date of this Elantra. Where did I just see it? Oh, come on. Sale date, okay? Vehicle title. This is to get the title of the vehicle. Was on April 20th, 2022. So he only bought this April 20th, 2022. His plates were still good. And he was going back to Pennsylvania. So why did you wait until after the red rums to change your plates to Washington plates. You changed your driving license back in, let's go find it. I go do this, it'll be easier. Here we go. July 1st of 2022, you updated your address for your driving license. I know here, if you move, especially out of the province, you only have 7 days to update your address and everything on your plates and on your driver's license. I thought he bought it in December of 2019, maybe April of 2022 when he got paid off to get the title. I don't know, but to me it looks like it said date purchased April 20th, 2022. But regardless, you changed your driver's license to Washington on July 1st, 2022. Why wouldn't you have changed your license plates then? Here, like if I was to move, say, from Ontario to British Columbia, I have 7 days to get rid of my Ontario plates and get British Columbia plates. 7 days from the date that you move. Why did he wait until after the red rums? Right? Driving record. So he's 6 foot and 185. And his driver's license would have expired in 5 years. So that's the same as here. Our driver's licenses are good for 5 years. Our plates, we have to renew every 2 years. I don't know. That's weird. The Carfax says it was purchased in December of 2019. Yeah, well, let me go back to it. Maybe I misread it wrong. Hang on. Let me go back. Certificate of title for a vehicle, date of issue, April 20th, 2022. Sale date, right here. Vehicle title application, April 20th, 2022. Right here. And it says it here too. He was given the title to this car in April of 2022. It was first plated in Pennsylvania in 2016. So, but it says here, date of sale was April 20th, 2022. Joint tenants. No. And he bought it used. That's weird. Date of sale, Bryan Kohberger. Agent that sold it, what is 0? I don't know. But it says it here, it was issued, and it says bill of sale here. Sale date, April 20th, 2022. Maybe the car was brought into the family in 2019 and transferred to Bryan in April. That could very well be, Harlot. That could very well be. Did his dad maybe buy it and then transferred it to Bryan Kohberger in April so he could go to Washington? Right? But regardless of any of that, um, he changed his license on July 1st, 2022, but he did not change his plates. And like I said, I don't know, maybe Harlot, maybe you know, in the States, say if you move from Pennsylvania to Washington, is there a set amount of time you have to change your address on your driver's license and your car plates, registration, insurance, all that stuff? Because I know here, different provinces, even different areas, like if I was to live in downtown Toronto, my insurance would be triple what I'm paying. I'm in Eastern Ontario. I would be paying triple what I'm paying now. But if you change, anytime you move, you have 7 days to change your address on your driver's license, your ownership, and your insurance. I don't know what it's like there, especially changing provinces or states. I think it's even less. For here, anyway. Maximum 10 days. So he changed his driver's license well before his birthday. So his driver's license hadn't expired yet. His driver's license would expire on his birthday. That's the same as here. It expires on your birthday, whichever year. And our licenses are good for 5 years. So I got mine in 2020. Mine expires this year. I'd have to renew it this year. It's good for 5 years. So he didn't have to change it yet. It hadn't expired. But he changed it to his new address in Washington. But he didn't change his plates. Yeah, that sounds about right. Even if it's 30 days, he didn't do it until after the red drums. But he did his license July 1st. Find that a little bit odd? And I think they're going to use it. And they're also going to use this photo. July, look at the eyebrows. That's a good photo showing his eyebrows too. So let's get rid of that. You guys, look at this. That is only 7 out of all of these. Now, some of these are orders to seal, order sealing, order sealing, order sealing, order sealing. Notice of appearance, there's going to be this one here I can show you quickly. Notice of appearance here. The state of Idaho is bringing on an appointed special assistant, and that is going to be Miss Allen, but only for jury selection. And this is odd too. Miss Allen's assistance with the jury selection will include responding to the defendant's motion to adopt a voir dire procedure and objection to the magic question. I wonder what this magic question is. He was probably saving those plates to transfer after the crime to disguise the car. Should have thought about the fact that one plate made him stand out. Yeah. And he figured by getting Washington plates after the crime. Well, look at my car has 2 plates. It doesn't have only one. It has 2. What a dumbass. He's a dumbass. I'm sorry. As smart as he tried to make himself sound in his final paper, There was so much wrong with it. Like I said, I would have loved to see it. Like, I remember when I started in forensics, it was like, I didn't last long, you guys. I'm telling you, it has got to be one of the toughest things to do. And the blood thing was, no, not me. It just wasn't for me. So then I went into criminal law. But there was no way I could do it. He seemed to thrive in it and loved it. He wanted to be part of every single thing, right down to, I'm sure he wanted to touch the wounds. But yeah, what's his magic question? We don't know. Okay, so there's that. States list of supplemental. I think we went over this. Yeah, this is the one, all the baits and all that. We went over it. Um, sealing. Uh, this was the 3D. She doesn't want the 3D dollhouse of the house in there. We still have some other ones that we can go through here. They don't want the defense doesn't want the 911 call in there. They do not want the prosecution allowed to mention certain words like red drum or red drummer or bushy eyebrows. You're not allowed to say those words during the trial. You're not allowed. um, they've tried everything now, like this neuropsychological and psychiatric evidence of how things affected him. Um, okay, so they want to use this. The defendant, in his response to the state's motion in limine, has clarified that he apparently has at least two separate purposes for the proposed evidence. One, to explain how the defendant appears before a jury, and to rebut what the defendant anticipates to be new evidence from the state regarding suspicious, unusual, or other odd, the state's characterization, physical and social behavior. So he's going to try and say, because he's got this ADHD and this ASD stuff, that they want the judge to tell the jury, don't take him staring off to nowhere or just stoic, just sitting there like a frozen dummy or anything. Don't hold that against him because he has ADHD and, he has physical restraints and he can't do, um, he has problems with his mobility and with his hands. Like he couldn't have done this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm, it's just crazy. This is all going to be denied, you guys. But we can go through that. Not today. I'll go through. See, a lot of these are sealed. The proposed jury questionnaire and stuff. We've talked a lot about this already. They want the death penalty taken off the table because they said that the prosecution hasn't given them disclosure for disclosure violations and all this crap. They're still throwing out here motions to compel, and yet they're complaining because they got too much. Right? Inflammatory evidence, that's they don't want certain words used during the trial, like red drum and red drummer. I just explained that, and bushy eyebrows and stuff like that. Not to be able to use the term psychopath or sociopath. Witness, they don't want the jury to hear that he's identified by bushy eyebrows. They can't use the bushy eyebrows. No. They want all the Amazon click activity and all that thrown out. And this is why I said, you guys, that they are going to be calling members of his family. They know that somebody on that Amazon account bought a K-bar knife. They have Bryan Kohberger's bank records showing that it was him. But even more so, they need one of his family members to get up there and say, look it, none of us bought it. It was him. Doopy 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 doop. Boop boop. Um, autism spectrum disorder. Like, come on, come on. So that's why, even though some of this stuff, like what we just went over, his final exam paper that he wrote, um, to counteract whatever they're going to use with the autism, what scale of autism he's on. It's like the alibi didn't work. So now they've got to try everything. This is just Ann Taylor. And I mean, I can't blame her, you guys. She is doing everything in her power to try and get everything thrown out that she can. But it's not going to work. Um, but it's not going to be for not trying, right? So, whatever other ones that aren't sealed here and that we haven't gone over, maybe we'll do that, go through some of them at a later date. I am going to try and get the Layla Santinello. So many people are asking me to do an updated read on her, so I want to try and get that done tomorrow. Harlot says running a mile and under, let me just get this. Running a mile under 7 minutes in kickboxing show his coordination. Yeah. Lives alone, drives, works. The TA shows he can, yes. Plan successfully and everything. Yes. I mean, it's her last ditch attempt. Got to give her kudos for that, I guess. But like I said, just in the last week, you guys, let's go down. Look at from here. And this was as of yesterday. Look at this. All the way down. Let's go back to the lake. Look at this. All of these since the beginning of March. All of this since the beginning of March. Okay, right to here. Since the beginning of March, all of this has been filed. Let's scroll up. All of this has been filed since the beginning of March. I've seen cases, you guys, that from start to finish don't have that much emotions and crap. So we'll see what happens, you guys. And look at that's just from 2025. We've got 2024, 2024, 2020. Like the amount of documents. Look at this. This is 2024 at Ada County. Look at all these. That's just Ada County. Okay. Latah County in 2024. Look at this. All of these. Look at this. 2024. In Latah County, 2023. Check this out. Look at this. Okay. And then 2022. There's not much in 2022 because he was arrested on the 30th, right? But I'm telling you, they're going to need about 12 wooden carts and 12 donkeys to carry all this crap in to court. It's can you imagine the file on this? Look at this. This is just 2025. Unreal. It is. It's crazy. Costi Du says, I'm just glad this judge doesn't put up with the BS. Exactly. So that's what we got today, you guys. Tomorrow I'm going to try and get the Layla Santinello updated read done and see where we go from there with that one. I hope to do it tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, got your notifications set to all. Sunday, we have the live mini reads. If you want a mini read or a question that you want to ask of your very own, come and see me Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, live with mini reads. I can only imagine how many filings there are that they didn't let us see. These filings all seem to be for the hearing on 4/9. Imagine how many there were for the IGG. Yeah, there's tons. Everything is in here, but let's Let's just check this before we leave, you guys. Just to see, because this is the case summary. See if they've squeezed in another hearing or something. Let's see. No. Okay, so the next hearing is April 9th. Okay, these were canceled because they were with Judge John Judge. So the next hearing is April 9th, then April 16th, and then May 15th for the pretrial. This was supposed to be trial. It's canceled because that was with Judge John Judge. There was another hearing on July 21st, then July 30th, and then August 11th, jury trial. So those are I think they're going to need more than just the 9th for all this crap. I think it's going to go over a few days. So there's motions hearings set for I know the 9th and 10th were set aside for motions hearings. And then the next one is the 16th. I think it's going to run right through till the 16th. Yeah, they were saying the 9th and the 10th, but I think they're going to need a lot more than that. And Judge Hippler don't play, you guys. He does not play. So with that being said, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And like I always do, please take care of yourselves, man. Be careful out there. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Oh, let me just get rid of that. Okay. So with that being said, we'll wrap it up. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Always be aware of your surroundings. And don't trust people. I love you guys to the moon and back. Take care. Bye-bye for now. Thank you, Nana. Big hugs. Love you. I like the new judge too.